can go and where we can't. So what we have is we have Broad Street and we have Maple Street. We have 2nd Street and we have 1st Street. All right, and let's, come on, here we go. All right, my recorder will be Travis. End of the period, I'll need that record sheet so I know who gets a homework pass. All right, so we are on 9. So on 9, we are starting with angle 4. So we're on the corner of Maple Street and 1st Street, and we have to work our way over to the address 14 Broad Street. Now we can't, there's so many buildings in between here. We can't go this way. We either have to go Maple Street and then take a right on 2nd Street, or we have to go down 1st Street and take a left onto Broad Street. All right? So we have choices. And the choice, we're starting with 4. You could start with 14. We're going to start with 4. So if we start with 4, McKenna, you get to decide, are we going to go down Maple Street or are we going to go down 1st Street? Which direction you want to go? Okay, we're going to go down Maple Street. So we know that angle 4 is congruent. Pick an angle that, as we go down Maple Street, that angle 4 is congruent to. Okay, 4 and 11 form a C. Are those congruent? No. 9. Okay, that's a very little used one. And what is this reason? If lines parallel, what type of angles are they? Tracer sides. Right. Alternate interior angles are what? Congruent. All right. So she has worked us over to 9. So now we're at the corner of 2nd Street and Maple Street. So now we can work our way towards 14. So as we work our way towards 14, Harper, what is 9 congruent to? 13. 9 is congruent to 13. So we'll say angle 9 is congruent to angle 13. What is that reason? So if lines parallel, corresponding angles congruent. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to clean up this. You know that 4 is congruent to 9. You know 13 is congruent to 9. So if both of those are congruent to the same angle, Kayla S., what should be true?
4 is congruent to 13.
Right. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 13. And what's this reason?
Because 4 is equal to 9 and 9 is...
Yeah, you've got 2 choices you can use. One starts with a T and one starts with an S. We could remove 9 and we transited. There you go. You were on transitive yesterday. Okay, that's the sophisticated way to say it, because when 2 things are equal to the same thing, they're equal to each other. All right, so we're at 13 now. So now I need to know what is the relationship between angle 13 and angle 14, because 14 was our destination. McKenna? The relationship between 13 and 14. They're a linear pair. Angle, what does that mean? Linear pair angles are what? So 13 and 14 add to 180. And what is the reason? Linear pair angles add to 180, or you could tell me are what? What's the supplementary? All right. So what we've got to do is we've got to link 4 and 14. So now we don't have a choice. If 4 is congruent to 13 and 13 and 14 are linear or add to 180, now we have to remove 13 and we have to insert 4. So angle 4 and angle 13 are supplementary. So the question is, what did I just do to make that transition? Amanda is not here. Eric. What's it called when I remove 13 and insert 4? Yes, yes. It is substitution. So now what we've got is we've got this relationship. Yeah? Oh, good call. Thank you, Devin. Yes, it's 14 because we left 14 alone. Now, do we have a relationship with 4 and 14? They told us 4 is 2x plus 1. They told us 14 is 8x minus 21. So based on what we just found out, what does this mean we're going to do? Nick, what equation do we write? Is that what this says? Exactly. Right. So when you get the two angles that you started with linked together, this is going to drive your equation. So you should have 10x minus 20 equals 180. I forgot the x. So when you add 20, you're going to get 200. X is equal to 10. 20? 2? 20. All right, but that's not all. They want us to find 16. Where is 16? 16 is right here. So what relationship does 16 have with 14? 16 doesn't have a relationship with 4 unless we go through a bunch of thinking process. Becky, what is this relationship? Vertical. What do you know about vertical angles? Vertical angles are, yes. So we know 16 equals 14. So if I have to find 16, then basically what that means is I'm going to have to find 14. And we know what 14 is. We know 14 is 8x minus 21. So how do I actually find its measure now? Leslie? So that's 160. Minus 24 would be 140. How about 136? Did I have that answer? Okay. And today, the good news is you won't have to do any of the algebra. You're going to stop here. I think Caitlin's hand was up first. Pardon? Oh, it's 21. Sorry. So now, if we, is that going to be 139? Was that my answer? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Nick. 6. All right, after 6, we're going to move to what we're doing today, which basically is the same thought process that you did yesterday. All right, so here's our picture again. Where are we now? We have angle 2. Here's 2, and here is 16. So we are currently on the corner of First Street and Maple Street, and we have to get to the corner of Broad Street and 2nd Street. So are we going to first go along First Street to get to Broad Street or Maple Street to get to 2nd Street? That's the question. Eric, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay on First Street or do you want to stay on Maple Street? Okay, if you stay on Maple Street, then you've got to give me something congruent to 2. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 10, and what is the reason? If lines parallel, what letter do they form? What kind of angles are those? Corresponding angles are congruent. So now we're at 10. Yes, sir? 2 and 16 are not congruent, and the reason why, we don't know yet. You can't jump from 2 to 16. There is no justification. You either have to work along First Street and down Broad Street, or you have to work along Maple Street and down 2nd Street to get there. So we've gone from 2 to 10. We're at 10 now. So the question is, how do I move from 10 closer to 16? And the person that's going to answer that is Jennifer, who's not here. So we're going to go to Sydney. Angle 10 is congruent to angle 16y. Okay, so I'm going to lump these together in the same reason. All right, with that said, if angle 2 is equal to 10 and 10 is equal to 16, what can we say, Caitlin? If 2 is congruent to 10 and 16 is congruent to 10, what can we say? Right, and what's that reason? Right, transitive. Are we there? Did we link our 2 and our 16? That's what number 6, what we set out to do. So this tells you basically how to write your equation. So what did they give us? They told us in 6 that angle 2 is 9x minus 11. They told us 16 is 7x plus 3. So what equation should be written? And this is going to go to Becky. Right. So when you subtract 7x, you'll get 2x. When you add 11, you'll get 14. X is 7. All right, so now we want 13. Where is 13? 13 is right here. 13 does not have a close relationship with 2, but it has a very close relationship with 16. My question is, what type of relationship is 13 and 16? Carlin's not here. This goes to Devin. Supplementary. For those people who were not here yesterday, these are linear pair angles. Linear pair angles form a T. Those are on your quiz. Those were not on your foldable. You need to know that. So what is the relationship of linear pair angles, Devin? They add to 180. So how am I going to find angle 13, Amanda? Who's not here? How am I going to find angle 13? Jeff? What will I find first? What do you know? Between these two angles, what do you have information on? We know x equals 7, but do we know anything about 13? Do we know anything about 16? Look on our angle. What do we know about 16? Right. So if angle 16 is 7x plus 3, what do I put in x's spot? Yes. So this is going to be 49 and 3 is 51. So if this angle is 51, how will I get 13? Exactly, because they're supplementary. So angle 13 is going to equal 180 minus 51, which should be 129. Did I get 129? Okay, that's going to be 49, 50, 51. Oh, yeah, it is. This is 52, and this is 52. So how about 128? Better? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go into what we're going to do today, which is the exact same thought process, but the good news is once you get here, you can stop. So it's going to be a whole lot less work. Yes? Because 16 and 2 are congruent. That's why. So you were okay there. All right, so let's look at where we're going here. This is what we're going to do. It's going to look like this today. It's going to say given K parallel to H, K parallel to H, and M parallel to N. So now we have M Street, and we have N Street, and we have K Street, and we have H Street. Did you know some cities name their streets out of letters? I think DC does that a little bit. But I have seen letters for street names. So you have to prove that 5 is congruent to 15. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate our statements and our reasons a little bit. It organizes it so it's a little bit easier to read. So we're going to call this statements, and we're going to call this reasons. And we always begin with our first step with what we're given. M parallel to N. And the reason is because it was given. Now again, there is not one way to do this problem. There are so many different ways. And that's what makes grading these interesting. And that's why for every single one of these problems, I must have a diagram. Okay? You're going to draw this picture over and over and over again. Every single problem must have a diagram because you've got to work with your diagram. This is how we know when we're done. When we get 5 congruent to 15, that means stop. So we're starting at 5. So are we going to go along M Street? Well, I don't know. Where are we going? We're going down to 15. Am I going to work along M Street and then down H Street, or am I going to work on K Street over to N Street? That's the question. And the person that's going to answer that question is McKenna. I believe you have a homework pass. So which way you want to go? So she's going to go along M, so tell me what's congruent to angle 5. Angle 5 is congruent, is it? Trace its sides. Okay, we're going to go down K Street. Okay, 5 is congruent to what? Good. 5 is congruent to 13. Why? If lines parallel, what type of angles are they? What letter do they form? If we trace, and this is why you want a picture on each one, that's 5, that's 3. Right. Corresponding angles congruent. All right, we are now at the corner of K and N Street. So now we are working our way to the corner of M and N, or M and what? N and H. Karen, we're at 13. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Angle 13 is congruent to angle 15. Why? If lines parallel, what type of angles are they? Corresponding angles congruent. All right, before you go any further, you need to clean up what you have. You've got 5 congruent to 13. You've got 15 congruent to 13. What can we say, McKenna? This is just your day. Looking at this, what can you say? Yeah. And what's that reason? Yeah, you do. 5 and 15 both equal 13. I learned it yesterday. You should have used it a lot on last night's homework. Starts with a T. Transitive. Could you have also used substitution? Yes, you could have, because you could have removed this 13 and put 5 in its place. Now, did I get to where I wanted to go? Am I there? So what does that mean? Go to the next problem. Is this a whole lot easier than last night's homework? Whole lot less work. Is this the same as last night's homework? Yeah, but do you see how we've organized it a little bit better? It's a whole lot easier to follow. Okay, let's do another one. So you see, yesterday was the big learning curve. Today, we're working with the same thing the same way. So we're given these lines parallel again. Now we're going to prove supplementary. So we're going to, I didn't name my, this is going to be M. Ooh. Okay, let me name my streets. This is M Street, this is N Street, this is K Street, this is H Street. All right, so let's get organized. All right, where do we always begin? Amanda? Not here? Try this again. Carlin, not here. McKenna! You're working on a second homework pass, just FYI. Where do we begin? Okay, well, first we begin here and we end there. So your first statement will be? And what's the reason? Given. Prove is never a reason. Just FYI. Okay. So now we are working, I don't know what, Kayla S. Do you want to start with 2 or do you want to start with 11? Where do you want to begin? It's your choice. Okay. We're going to start at 2, keeping in mind we're working our way to 11. So do you want to go across M Street or do you want to go down K Street? Okay. So what can you tell me on M Street angle 2 is congruent to? 4. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. What's the reason? But you have to write first if lines parallel, corresponding angles congruent. If that's not there, I won't give you credit because that's only true if the lines are parallel. We are now at 4. All right, so now we're going to turn and we're going to go down H Street. Tell me about what is congruent to 4, Eric? 12. Great. So step 3, we've got angle 4 is congruent to angle 12. What kind of angles are those? So if lines parallel, corresponding angles congruent. All right, before we go any further, we're going to clean up this because we're going to need it later. So if 2 is congruent to 4, 12 is congruent to 4, Sydney, what can we say? So angle 2 is congruent to angle 12 for what reason? Transitive. All right, so we've gotten ourselves to 12. There is a relationship between 11 and 12. And the question is, what is that relationship, Kayla? They are supplementary. They're a linear pair. So we'd say here, we'd say angle 11 and angle 12 are supplementary. And over here, our reason would be because linear pair angles are what? Add to 180. Or you could say are supplementary. I will accept either at this point. All right. So do you see we're really close to finishing? We got the R supplementary there. But we need 2 and 11, and right now we have 11 and 12. So if we know, Amanda would have had a homework pass. Sydney, I think you might have one. All right. So if we know that 2 is congruent to 12, and we have 12 down here, what can we do? Right, we can remove 12 and put 2 in its place. So that means 11, angle 11 and angle 2 are supplementary. And what did we do to get that? Substitution. We can't use transitive because it is not all congruence. Am I where I needed to be? That means we can stop. So this is a whole lot less work than last night's homework. But do you agree you needed this thought process to do last night's homework? All right, do you want me to do another example of this, or do you want to do another problem from your homework? Homework? Okay, give me another problem from the homework. 8. New page. All right. So 8 said, 8 says we are starting with 7 and we want to move to 10. Here's 7, here's 10. All right. Do you mind if I kind of organize it like we did today? We just won't have a given. Do you mind that? Know today that we have a step called given, so I'll call this number 2. So if I'm at 7, are you going to go along First Street or are you going to go along Broad Street? This goes to Kayla S. You got homework pass. You're going to go along first or broad?
Broad Street.
Broad Street. So what is 7 congruent to? Angle 14. And what's the reason? If lines parallel, what letter they form? Corresponding angles congruent. All right. We are at 14. We need to head towards 10. McKenna, I think that might be 2. Where are we going? We're at 14. 14's congruent to? Okay, not 12. 11 was better. Angle 11, why? If lines, they form an F, right? Now, if 7, let's see, if 7 equals 14 and 11 equals 14, what do we know, Eric? 7's 14, 11's 14. What can we say?
7 is equal to 11.
And what's that reason? Transitive. All right, we're at 11. What links 11 and 10? That goes to Brittany.
That they're vertical.
Angle 11 is equal to angle 10, and what's the reason?
They're vertical.
Vertical angles are congruent. All right, last but not least, we have 7 equals 11. We've got 10 equals 11. What can we say, Kayla? And what's that reason? Okay, so now we've got those linked. This is what we needed. 7 is 7x plus 4. 10 is 11x minus 36. I'm going to finish this problem in the event you want to go online and listen to it. So that means from this, leave your homework on Kayla's desk. That means 7x plus 4 equals, for those of you who came in early, I need it tomorrow morning, not 2 days from now. Got to finish it tonight. Subtract 7, add 36, so x is 10. Are you finished? Then you can turn it in. All right, thank you. So now we're going to look at, this is number 8. We want to go to angle 12. So where is angle 12? Angle 12 is right here. We know angle 10. This relationship is a linear pair. So if I find the measure of angle 10, which is going to be 11 times 10 minus 36, which is 110 minus 36, which is going to be 74, I believe. From there, bye-bye, we're going to say angle 12 is going to equal 180 minus 74. And when we do 180 minus 74, we're going to get 106.